The booming WCW continued its hottest streak in history with Nitro Tonight coming in front of 25,000 people at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, another massive crowd in a string of stadium shows scheduled for January and February, with the event in addition to the gate doing huge merchandise sales of over $12 per head from the over 20,000 crowd, making it one of the highest merchandise figures in history, up there with most of the biggest WrestleManias of the previous boom period. Another milestone for the company came 2 days ago in the first ever internet pay-per-listen event for one of the biggest non-televised events in history, with massive orders demand that nearly crushed the site. The show, which came from the same venue of the upcoming WrestleMania 14 in Boston's Fleet Center, saw the company putting on a loaded show with every major player on the card, headlined by Hogan vs. Sting in a cage match, drawing a sold-out crowd of 19,000 people. Nitro's first hour opened at record levels with a 5.2 rating, featuring Nash's follow-up promo on being arrested and fined every time he uses the powerbomb, saying that the company don't have a problem with the move as Kidman just used it in the previous match, but trying to take him down after Giant couldn't do it, telling WCW that he will continue to use the move and Hogan will cover any fine they come up with. WCW hyped a big main event from the first segment of the show of Sting vs. Randy Savage, with the crossover segment featuring 2 matches of Jericho vs. Kahlo and Booker vs. Regal. The X opened Raw with a comedic special announcement responding to TV networks' complaints about their antics and language in the last few months, specifically the international versions of the Raw broadcast in Canada and the UK, who were editing parts of the segments on TSN and Sky Sports, with Michaels referencing the Clinton scandal going on at the same time. Michaels and Hunter came out minutes later campaigning to book Austin vs. Tyson for WrestleMania in a way to get Shawn out of defending the belt, bringing out Austin to shift the focus from a potential Tyson match and establish the planned main event of Michaels vs. Austin in time for the official announcement in a big press conference Thursday in New York, as interest continued to stay steady, with Raw starting with one of its highest opening segments in history, doing a 3.6 rating. Raw's most talked about angle of the night was next, first with Terry Funk and Mick Foley being interviewed by JR earlier in the day to hype up their hardcore match, talking about the legacy they want to leave in the business, with the match tonight deciding the king of hardcore, as Funk mentioned that any match can be his last and it might be tonight. Foley and Funk as Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie went 10 minutes before ending up on the stage, leading to Foley jumping off the Raw set to a dumpster for the finish, but with the real angle now starting as the Outlaws locked Foley and Funk in the dumpster and threw them off the stage, with JR selling it big on commentary right before a commercial break, as the match saw jumping over 400,000 viewers from the opening quarter to a 3.9 rating. With the follow-up on the Foley-Funk situation happening on Raw, Scott Hall and Dusty came out on TNT. Hall talked about winning the Battle Royal a few months back for a title shot at Super Brawl, which is now delayed due to the Sting vs. Hogan rematch, asking Dusty if he should go after management, Sting or Hogan, with Dusty putting the heat on Piper as the commissioner. With Hall scheduled to face Jim Neidhart next, Louis Spicolli run out telling Hall that he should not wrestle until he gets his title shot, saying that Hall is his idol and he will wrestle the match for him instead, as Hall attacked Neidhart to go over after several interferences. As Raw returned from the break, Foley and Funk were being loaded into the ambulance in a unique scene near the stage, with Vince McMahon, the stuffed talent roster and the announcers all selling it as a shoot of the Outlaws going into business for themselves to try to get over, with JR using inside terms to push it as an unplanned part of the show and Vince seen in a heated exchange with Gunn and Road Dogg. The unique segment led to major curiosity as Raw jumped to a peak 4 rating, with the combined audience between both shows during the quarter, with Raw having the incident follow-up and Nitro having Hall vs. Neidhart and Hall and Luger promos, breaking the all-time viewership with a 4.8 to 4 for a record 8.8 rating. WCW entered the 5 rating range with a 2-match quarter, first with Bill Goldberg coming out to face Mark Starr, continuing to get more over by the week, with his matches now being hyped throughout in the head-to-head 2 hours. The second match right after saw Mongo against British Bulldog in a rematch of last week, ending in an outside brawl. The show-long angle on Raw continued with the Outlaws being interviewed by JR in a work-shoot promo, asking them how far they can go to get over, with the Outlaws showing regret, saying that maybe they went too far but tried to get every opportunity they can to get to the next level, as DX entered the frame, with Shawn telling JR that this is the result of them being asked to top themselves every week to draw ratings, telling the Outlaws to think about themselves and push the envelope every week like they do as the show always goes on. With star power and major angles right after another, Raw's first hour drew a 3.8 rating, one of the highest opposed hours in show history, but with Nitro's format this week placing the majority of the big star power segments in a loaded-up third hour set for 10 to 11, WCW was about to take over from there, as Hollywood Hogan and Eric Bischoff came out to kick it off at 10 p.m. Hogan hyped the Sting pay-per-view rematch, saying that he will beat him again at Super Brawl, before moving to tonight's big main event, telling Savage that he is not gonna be in his corner to help him with Sting later on, saying that tonight Savage will know the pecking order in the NWO. Raw's second hour opened with Owen Hart vs. Billy Gunn, ending up with DX coming out as the Outlaws, said to show a more aggressive side with DX's influence, about to throw Owen off the stage before being stopped by company officials. Next on Nitro was Raven vs. Disco, going 5 minutes in a Raven's Rules match, while Raw against it had Farouk vs. Chance, with another tease of problems in the Nation, this time with Kama and Farouk. With WWF business trending upwards in every department, the only thing threatened to slow down the momentum was injuries, with reports coming out during the week on Shawn Michaels feeling the effects of the backdrop bump he took over the casket at the Rumble, leading to him being taken off all house shows until April, including big shows in Canada with record gates built around a Michaels vs. Owen Hart main event, with him not expected to wrestle until WrestleMania to not risk injury. Nitro had Nash and Bagwell against the Steiners just before the main event, jumping over 300,000 viewers, with the 2 stories of the match being Nash about to use the powerbomb to a huge pop, and Scott not tagging in Rick and winning the match by himself, continuing the tease of the Steiners split. Nitro's main event promoted as one of the biggest matches in show history, with it being Sting's only second TV match in the last 18 months and the Savage NWO issues all tied together. Sting came down from the roof of the massive Alamo Dome in one of his most visually impressive entrances as Savage attacked just as Sting entered the ring to start the brawl, with Savage looking to have the match won until Hogan interfered with the idea that he's gonna be the one to take the belt off Sting, as the Savage-Hogan feud was getting hotter by the week, in addition to the upcoming Sting match, with the company having big money matches with all 3 coming up. The Sting vs. Savage main event peaked the night with a 5.1, with Nitro overall breaking all Monday Night Tours records, drawing a big 4.9 rating. WWF heavily hyped Thursday's WrestleMania 14 press conference throughout the show, along with announcing that tickets for the pay-per-view sold out in 90 seconds, with the event set to be shown on several high-profile news and sports channels, as timing could not have been any better for the company, as the first reports of the Mike Tyson-Don King split were coming out over King allegedly taking the majority of Tyson's money and leaving him bankrupt, with Tyson's first public appearance set to be during the press conference in what is expected to lead to huge publicity for the company in the pay-per-view. Austin vs. Road Dogg went less than a minute in the main event before DX interfered to bring out Foley and Funk from the hospital, ending the show with a Michaels-Austin confrontation to kick off the build-up to March 29.